Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be getting started in just a moment, so feel free to filter in, maybe go grab a glass of water. Let us know in the chat where you're coming from. We're going to be getting started right at 5 p.m. Eastern, so right at the top of the hour. For those who just joined, we will be getting started right at the top of the hour. Feel free to let us know in the chat box where you're coming from. Make sure you hit everyone so that we can all see it. I see we've got someone from Spokane, Washington. I'm sure the fall colors are beautiful there right now. All right, by my clock, it is the top of the hour, 5 p.m. Eastern, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to today's EA Career Panel. My name is Erin Mosier and I will be your technology coordinator for today. So if you need any help with technology, you can go ahead and message me via the chat box. We will be having a question and answer period. And we encourage you to put those questions in the question and answer box that you find on the bottom of your Zoom client. We have enabled the upvote feature. So if you see a question that you like and you want to make sure it gets answered or asked, make sure you hit that little thumbs up. It's on the bottom of the question. This webinar is being recorded and will be displayed later as an archive. So if you want to rewatch it, you are more than welcome to do so. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Meg Killian, the NAEA Executive Vice President.
Thanks, Erin. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our EA Career Panel. And thank you so much to our panelists who are going to be here to share their experiences as enrolled agents, what their careers are like, and how they became EAs, so that all of you can learn about an exciting career as an enrolled agent. This is a growing and a field that is going to be in demand in the coming years. Tax laws are not getting any easier, and having the right tax professional supporting you is so important. So with that, I am going to pass it off to Catherine Bostock-Hudy, who is the chair of our NAEA Education Foundation. Thanks for being with us today, Catherine, and take it away.
Thank you, Meg. I appreciate that. I'd like to thank everybody who is attending our first enrolled agent career panel discussion. I hope that this is the first of many. We've already got a second one tentatively scheduled. And I'd like to take the time to welcome you on behalf of the National Association of Enrolled Agents and the National Association of Enrolled Agents Education Foundation. To give you a little history, NAEA was established in 1972 on June 26, 1972 to be exact, by 5 individuals. And in the first year that NAEA was an organization, they had a C-Prep class for 40 individuals. They did a bus trip to the IRS Service Center in Fresno, California, and held 2 tax educational events. So the organization right from the beginning was about education and advocacy and trying to have individuals become enrolled agents. And that's what we're still all about, almost 50 years later. I'm Catherine Bostock-Hudy. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm an NTPI fellow. I became an enrolled agent in 2005, and I became an NTPI fellow in 2012. And I've been an NAEA member since 2010, and I am your moderator for this evening's event. So I'm going to start by introducing the panel, and as I introduce the panel, I'd like the panelists to tell us a little bit about themselves and where they're from and where they're at in their career. So I'm going to start with Rosie Steele, enrolled agent with Optima Tax.
Such a great opportunity to start first. Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Rosie Steele. I work at Optima Tax Relief. I have been at Optima since 2013. I started as a customer service representative, and I had zero experience in taxes. I didn't even know what a 1040 was. My dad handled all the tax stuff. I had no clue. So to say I was thrown in the deep end would be a gross understatement, but it was an amazing learning opportunity for me, and I have come so far since. After a couple of months in being in customer service, I moved into case management, which is basically an assistant to an enrolled agent or an attorney to gather the documents necessary to move forward with resolutions. And I specialized in revenue officer and audit cases. So these were, as you are maybe familiar, these are the more complex cases that have a lot more back and forth and a little bit more of a challenge to resolve. And because of that, I gained a lot of knowledge through that. And after that, I decided to move forward with my EA and passed my test within, I think, 4 months or so. I was very eager to move forward, got some experience speaking with for compliance opportunities, and then became a revenue officer tax professional here at Optima. Optima tends to specialize just like the IRS does. So we have revenue officer team, offering compromise team, ACS team, audit, etc. So I specialized with revenue officers and have been doing that ever since. I only recently got a different position in management, but I'm still just coming off the tax professional side. So that's where I am.
Thank you, Rosie. I will go to Donald Nelson next. Donald, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I took over my dad's practice in 2005. I sort of grew up in the company like a lot of tax professionals. It tends to be kind of a parent to child business that passes on. And he, at the time, needed some radiation for his cancer, which he was clean after that. And he passed away a couple of years ago, but the cancer never came back. But he actually revealed later on that he quit because in 2005, they discontinued DOS programs for tax software. And it was kind of a funny situation to be in because Windows had been around for quite a while by then. But I had implemented the e-file program for him and then got him switched to Windows, and he was out by then. But after a couple of years of leaving the IRS, I brought on a partner from somebody I'd met at the IRS, and we decided, you know, if you're at the IRS for 3 years, you automatically become an enrolled agent. And neither of us had been there long enough to just be grandfathered into that. So we decided to go ahead and pass the tests and study for it. And it was a good move. The point of becoming that was just to have that additional certificate, because we realized that the CPA exam was 1/8 tax, and our passion was taxes, not the other fields. And the EA exam was 100% tax, and that's our passion. We love taxes and love dealing with clients and complicated puzzles. And so we felt like that process was pretty easy once we decided to go for it and pass that, and the path has been good. We've established one of the larger EA firms. I don't know if we've met anybody else that's larger, but we have 7 enrolled agents that are underneath us. There's 3 partners up top with their enrolled agent certification, and then 7 underneath us. And we do about 5,500 tax returns between us, and it works really well. We've our average day right now is, you know, dealing with trying to be a little more virtual like everybody else. We actually developed a software that helps with that, and a mobile app for the client, and that's why we came up with the name Pacesetter for that. But we're passionate now about EA too. We've been reaching out to some different colleges and assisting the NAEA on that to make those bridges and make that more a well-known path, because we realize that, you know, 75% or so of the workforce is going to age out in the next 10 years. And there's a lot to be done, a lot of money to be made, but a lot of people to take care of. So.
Before I move on to the next panelist, there is an attendee with their hand raised. And I just would like to ask that if you have a question, please type your question in the Q box so that we can respond promptly to your question. And with that, I'm going to move on to Kathy Brown.
Thank you, Catherine. I am Kathy Brown, an enrolled agent from Kentucky. I have been an enrolled agent since 2004. I've owned my own business for nearly 30 years as a sole practitioner. I am an NCPI fellow, and my practice focuses on clients of all walks of life. Kind of like that song, I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere as far as clientele goes, the good, the bad, and ugly, and the ones that needed to go, and the ones that I needed to keep, and the ones I needed to raise their fees on. I started my career right out of college with a bachelor's degree in accounting at the largest CPA firm in the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana tri-state area. Didn't take me long of being at that firm to say, I can do this on my own. So I have very little experience outside of being a sole practitioner. So I'm glad to be here. It's an honor to sit with these wonderful folks up here on this panel.
Thank you, Kathy. Now I'm going to move on to Chris. And Chris is an enrolled agent candidate. So Chris, we would love to hear about what made you decide to become an enrolled agent.
Well, first of all, thanks for putting this together and thanks for having me here. I started preparing taxes at H&R Block maybe 4 years ago now, and have slowly been leveling up with their educational levels of how complex of a return you can do. And they offer to pay for all the tests. So that was kind of an incentive to take the test. And I finally felt I was kind of ready to just wrap my brain around all the different pieces of the puzzle. So that's why I started studying maybe 2 months ago, and I've taken 2 of the tests so far. I still have the business left to do, and that's in 2 weeks. But I've passed the other 2, so that was good. And I'm also I went back to school to get my master's in accounting, and I'm intending to sit for the CPA exam. So I'm still trying to feel out where I'm going to land as far as just what my career will be. I'm a career changer, so I spent most of my life as I'm actually a jazz musician. I play the upright bass, and I did that. It was fine. It was fun, and I made money. But I started a family and bought a house, and didn't want to travel so much anymore. So I started looking into other things that I enjoyed doing, and found tax was something as a sole proprietor, as a musician, I did a lot of anyway. So I started helping other people, and that's kind of where it all started rolling down to.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. That's great information. So the process of becoming an enrolled agent, Kathy and I are definitely old timers in this process, because I heard the date of when she became an enrolled agent. And I've been an enrolled agent since 2005. And back when Kathy and I took it, it was a 2-day, 4-part handwritten exam where we had to go to an IRS location, an IRS testing site, and actually take the test. And you had to pass 50% of the test in order to maintain or to be able to carry that forward in case you failed part of the test, as I remember, if you were not lucky enough to pass it in the first time around. And I can tell you that I took the test in 2004. I passed 3 out of the 4 parts and had to go back in 2005 and take the part I missed. Today's exam is a little bit different, where it is a 3-part exam, where you go to a Prometrics testing center. And not having done it, I imagine it's taken on the computer. Chris, if you could tell us a little bit more about that and how it actually works, that would be great.
Sure. So I live near Philadelphia, so the location's not that far for me. You just it's, you know, you show up, they have a strict COVID regulations, so you have to wear your mask the whole time. You have to take everything out of your pockets and everything, put it into a locker. They kind of wand you, you know, it's very, they took my glasses off and they looked at them, make sure there's no camera on them. It was pretty intense. And then it's all on the computer. They do give you scratch paper and a calculator. And you take half of the test. So it's 100 questions total, if I remember correctly, and you take 50 questions, and then you can take a 15-minute break if you want, which I did. And then you got to go through this whole process again. They wand you and make sure you didn't go pick up some more recording devices or whatever. And then you finish the second 50 questions. And it tells you, as soon as you finish, it tells you if you passed. And it gives you like proficient, not so proficient, you know, you did great for the different sections. So that was pretty good. And then you get an email, I think, which is more detailed. But I enjoyed the fact that, you know, instant gratification. I got to know that I passed. But yeah, it wasn't that daunting. It was a pretty well-run location and fine.
Thank you. Rosie, what does your average day look like?
My average day, well, when I was when I was the tax professional with the revenue officers, I would come in and check emails for any urgent cases that needed to be addressed. And then if not, I would go through my follow-up dates. So when it comes to revenue officers specifically, we would prepare and submit a packet of financial information to the revenue officer in an attempt to set up some sort of a resolution to be as beneficial for both parties as possible. We would try to set up as low of a payment plan as possible, get a hardship if applicable, but with revenue officers, they dig in pretty deep when it comes to a client's financial situation. So there would be a lot of back and forth, and eventually would come to an agreement, a type of negotiation for a resolution of an amount for a payment plan or a hardship if qualified. Apart from that, I would answer a lot of calls coming in from revenue officers, answer questions from the case managers, which is the people that would help us to gather the information from the clients. As I was a case manager before I was an enrolled agent, I was very familiar with the types of questions, and I know how important that position is because they are the client-facing position, which means that they have to be the ones that explain and educate to these taxpayers certain concepts that are not easy for them to understand. So as a tax professional, I would have to try to put it into layman's terms for them to then be repeated to the client directly. So for me, that's a basic day. It would just be the same thing each day. We got to focus on communicating with the IRS because we didn't have to interact face-to-face or phone with the client directly.
So there's a question in the chat box, and the question is, what are the 3 parts of the C exam? Well, the 3 parts of the C exam are individual taxation, business taxation, and representation. Rosie clearly is on the representation side of the enrolled agent profession. Donald, are you more on the tax side, or are you representation, or what's your typical day look like?
I've done all of it. Obviously, having worked at the IRS, I've done quite a bit of representation, and I'm familiar with the processes on the other side. And so that comes more naturally at this point. But average day for me, I'm very much one-on-one with the clients. I'm also a partner in our firm. And so I do a little bit of administrative each day, but I'm in an advisory and strategy role with clients and have quite a few high-end clients at this point, 20 years in. And so right now we're doing a lot of tax planning. We've developed, like I said, a software with Pacesetter that allows the clients to upload things so we can evaluate them quickly, and then using our tax software and then get back to them and disseminate that information to them. It's taken us from the role of being a paper pusher and a glorified data processor more back into the role that we wanted. And COVID helped with that because everything's more digital now, to where now we're spending more time advisory, strategy, and planning for the client. And the client actually thinks we're spending more time with them, and we can show that we're spending about a third of the time that we were before. It's just more value time than in the past.
Kathy, what does your typical day look like?
Well, I start by taking the dog out. No, I'm kidding. My day, one of the reasons why I do what I do is because every day is different. I had, alumni that went to college with me that did the corporate environment accounting world, and I couldn't do that. So every day looks different. Today has been a day of end of the year planning of the client. I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so I do a lot of accounting cleanup, accounting consulting, training clients. Tax season, it turns more into tax prep for businesses and individuals. And then I also do a lot of rep work. So it's really all over the place. And I'm at the point in my career where I can kind of pick and choose clients, and I'm pretty picky anymore. And I pick the ones I enjoy working with. So it makes it to where I get up every day and I look forward to going to work. I look forward to seeing my clients. And at the moment when I no longer feel like I'm helping them and don't look forward to seeing them, they're no longer a client.
I'm chuckling at that because my day this morning was I finalized a corporate tax return for a fiscal year corporation and got that. I'm keeping the U.S. Postal Service in business by mailing these things back to the clients that aren't digitally adept. And then I went on to QuickBooks Cleanup so that I could do tax planning with another client. So while I do some representation like the rest of you, I'm primarily on the tax and accounting side of things. And I even heard Chris say that he worked at H&R Block. So how did this last tax season go for you, Chris?
Well, we did a lot more virtual for the last two. And because, we, at the end of the last the 2 tax seasons ago is when we really had to start doing virtual. And I think that was good because H&R Block it seems like they're a very large company that has a hard time making changes. So they were dragging their feet being virtual. And I think this forced them to do it and kind of step up their game a little bit. And I kind of enjoyed that. There's nothing wrong with having the client on the other side of the desk, but also, getting the documents in a digital form ahead of time allowed me to be a little bit more prepared. Because sometimes at H&R Block, they just sit down and they throw all this stuff at you, and I have an hour. It's like, okay, fix my last year in an hour, which is kind of difficult. But and I think some of there were some unique things that we had to advise people about. People working from home, there was issues about what tax they were supposed to pay as far as local tax and such. It's like, am I working from home or am I working from Philadelphia, which is a higher tax? But yeah, it was a little challenging, but I think it was good for the company. Like I said, just to kind of push them into being more in this century.
Rosie, what was this tax season like for your firm?
For our firm in particular, we do complete a high volume of tax returns each year, and we were a little bit more prepared. Every year we get more prepared with sending extensions and then sending out reminders for clients to provide their information by, you know, at least a few weeks before the deadline so we can get everything done before the extension date. I don't work in the tax preparation department. It's a whole other beast. They're epic at what they do. They go through so many tax returns, and I know that they had a really successful year this year. When it comes to the resolution side of things, which is where I primarily do my job, we don't really feel it because we're focused on just setting up resolutions, completing financial analyses, and working directly with the IRS. The only time it does affect us is if the extension date has passed and we then need the current year or previous year tax return in order to be eligible to set up a resolution with ACS or with a revenue officer. So the date that does tend to affect us more is the extension date, so October 15th, but the actual like tax season in April. For resolution, it doesn't really affect us too much, but I know our tax prep team just work all the time, so they are very busy.
This is a question for Rosie and Donald. As a result of the last two tax seasons and the extensions of the tax filing periods, are you seeing increased resolution issues due to mail not being opened and other IRS issues?
Go ahead,
Donald,
Rosie.
go ahead.
Oh, yes, for sure. I mean, it's pretty well known how many parcels of mail they were behind. Another well-known one is any payments that were made didn't get posted or at least processed. So they would get notices saying they hadn't paid months after they had paid, all sorts of things there. So pretty interesting year as far as that goes, but easier than ever before to blame my former employer. So that part was good.
Rosie, any comments on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree, Donald. Yes, it's been an effort on our part to appease the clients because they're so frustrated. They want to be done with it. They want to be in the resolution, whether it's a payment plan or hardship. They just want to be done with it. And we're saying that we can't do anything until they finish processing these returns. There are very few ACS agents that have the ability or know how to add pre-assessed modules to resolutions. So when those do come up, we grasp onto them and we try to resolve as many cases with them as we can. But even when they say they do it, there are times where the system, they don't code it correctly in their system, and then the client comes back 6 months later and says, I got a CP 504. This was supposed to be in the resolution, and then we have to do another call. So yes, these processing returns have been fun. Yeah.
Yeah. On a good note, the practitioner hotline, those things have taken a step forward. It was down for a little bit, but it took a big step forward this year. So that's been a positive thing.
Kathy, tell us a little bit about your tax season and what that looks like, or what that looked like.
Well, as I said, I've scaled back a lot on what I do and who I do it for. In fact, I had to chuckle because I don't know if you can see this, but to that termination letter that's stuck on end of the year planning work from this morning. That's next on the to-do list. But tax season this year, compared to other years, it used to be that every 4 years, new Congress, new president, new tax bill full of changes. And now we're seeing multiple bills per year and just staying on top of the changes and things. It's just really changed the landscape of how important it is that we as enrolled agents do our job and do our job well and stay on top of current law. And it's there's it's struggling to stay on top of it. But as far as the change, for me personally, I like it. Oh, look, it's something new, and I'll dig into it and have pieces of paper and Post-it notes stuck all over my wall where I'm breaking it down on how that change is going to impact my clients, and I start making a list of who it's going to impact. But I have heard a lot of practitioners out there who said, you know what, that's it, I'm done. There's just too many changes, it's too exhausting. But overall, I had a good tax season. I had a profitable tax season, and I'm looking forward to another one.
What skills or interests are important for somebody to be successful as an enrolled agent? Don, can we start with you?
Yeah, we've been talking, like I said, with the local universities about that actually, and they said recruiting has gotten so aggressive that they're out there, they're seeing people getting a full job offer their sophomore year of college. So they're undergraduates and they're offering them full-time positions for 2 years, 3 years later. What we've discovered is personality and fit. If anybody has a good personality, communicates well, we can train anybody on the skill. I mean, the EA exam, if you've got common sense, it works. And I learned that at the IRS. There's not a lot of common sense in the way that the laws and things are enforced or interpreted. But the law is so smart. It was well written. We know that with the Constitution and the Internal Revenue Code. It's very, very well written and well done. And if you know common sense, there's a general rule to everything. But there's also an exception to every single one of those general rules, and knowing how those things apply and knowing your clients and what situations they're in and how to apply those and when to apply those. Those are really the most common things. It doesn't take a lot more than just common sense. If you can function that way and notice when there's discrepancies and things, you're set. The EA exam is the next thing to take, and you're off and running, and there's a high need for you.
Mm-hmm. And I always told my staff, and I don't mean to interrupt, Catherine, but smart person doesn't know all of the answers, but they know where to find them. There's no way to memorize the tax law. There's no way that your clients or your, whoever's sitting in front of you can expect you to quote the Internal Revenue Code. And, most won't. But as long as you know how to find that answer and how to do the research and how to find a reliable source, or, reach out to an EA. One of the things I found about our community is we are always willing to help each other. So if you've got a question for another state or just anything that you may think that one of us on this panel has experienced, I'm sure all of us would be happy to help.
I've found the same thing, that it's knowing where to find it. At the IRS, there was no shortage of answers, and it usually was never correct. They couldn't say, I don't know, or give me a second. It was hard to swallow that and just say, you know what, I'm not sure. Let me check. The smartest person is usually somebody who can say, I don't know.
My answer is always, it depends, because it always depends on the facts and circumstances of that particular situation. So that's the big line. It depends. Chris, what do you think are key qualities in somebody that is pursuing an enrolled agent credential?
Well, you can't be afraid of like new problems coming at you. And you can't be afraid of numbers. That's kind of basic. You don't have to be a mathematician, but you can't choke up when you have some things come at you and you need to calculate stuff and figure stuff out. Of course, the software is always going to be there for you, but if you just rely on that, then you're not really doing anybody a service. They could download a software themselves and do that. But you also need to be interested in helping people, because besides the accounting part, the number crunching part, if you are at all a client-facing position, which I do when I prepare taxes, you need to feel good about answering people's questions and helping them understand their situation so that they're not freaked out and they leave with a better feeling than when they came there. Yeah, I think if you have that, some curiosity, so that, like you were saying, the tax code is changing a couple times a year. So as long as you have a little curiosity and continue, then it won't be a drag to stay on top of things because you'll be interested in it.
Rosie, on the resolution side of things, I would imagine there's probably many key qualities that you need to be able to do resolution and do it well.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with everything that everyone else has said. These are all key points when it comes to any aspect of being an enrolled agent. When it comes to resolution specifically, I think the main key is communication. And that's not just between yourself and the client or taxpayer, it's also between yourself and the IRS. If you have a good way of rebuttaling things or a good way of requesting a certain expense to be included with an analysis, you will have the opportunity to get the best type of resolution for the clients that they may not have been able to get for themselves, which is exactly the point of our job. When it comes to resolutions, at least, we're there to make it easier for them and to get them the best type of resolution possible for them in their current situation. So communication is huge because not only do you have to communicate with the IRS, you also have to explain in layman's terms to the taxpayer why we can't allow them to have a Jaguar car payment at the same time as owing $500,000 to the IRS. So finding the way to do that, you just have to have the right way to do it.
I agree with everything that the panel has just said. I'd like to add a couple of, or at least one more thing. As an enrolled agent, with all of the networking that we do within our group, whether it's they're NAEA members or not, you need to know when to say when. I can't be an expert in everything. And Kathy is quite right. I can't memorize everything. I need to know where I can go find the answers for things. But a good example is I had a client move to Switzerland this year, and they wanted me to continue doing their tax returns. I'm not an international tax expert, nor do I want to become an international tax expert. So I actually found another enrolled agent who was an international tax expert, and I referred the client over to them because I would do my client an extreme disservice if I was to try to handle that return for them. So I need to know what my limitations are, and when I'm at that limit, I need to pass it along. Rosie, what kind of courses helped you prepare for your career?
The Fast Forward Academy is the website I used in order to get access to all the studying materials, practice quizzes, practice tests. It was probably the best investment I could have made for myself, given at the time it was being reimbursed by my employer, which I don't think they're doing that anymore, but at the time they did. And I was very grateful for that. And it motivated me to make sure that I passed all my classes because, I wasn't paying for it. Those were instrumental in helping me to study and be prepared for these tests, which they are intimidating. When you go to these test centers, you're all but being patted down and it's like you're at an airport. It's intimidating. So if you go in there feeling at least comfortable with the content of what you're testing for, then at least that takes a bit of the pressure off of you and you know that you're ready for it.
Chris, what courses have you taken to help you?
Also Fast Forward Academy. It was offered through H&R Block, and I think it's really good. The way it's set up in these little pieces that you read, and then you can take quizzes on it right away, and then you continue to take quizzes. It just feels like, and since it's on the computer, it's just setting you up for that test later on for taking the prometric test, because it's almost like, you're doing the test over and over again every time you do part of the study. I'm sure there's plenty of other services out there, but yeah, I'm using Fast Forward Academy, and it's pretty good.
Catherine, may I share how I practice for the test?
Absolutely.
Back in the day, you could actually print out a paper copy of the enrolled agent exam, and I just took it and then highlighted the questions I missed and began to study. Thankfully, there are much better ways. One of my favorites is Surgeon, and just a plug here. If you are a member of NAEA, you get the first part of Surgeon included with your membership, and you get discounts on the second and third. I have logged in and played around with it. I've tried Fast Forward Academy, I've tried Glyme, I've tried Surgeon. Surgeon to me seems to be the most user-friendly. So just don't do it the way that I did, which was then go to the Quick Finder and find out why I missed the answer based on what Quick Finder had in it. Definitely use a tool. There's so many tools out there that are available today.
Well, I have to say that I'm like Kathy. I actually ordered a set of manuals, and I studied from that set of manuals, and I also did the prior exams that I could get off the IRS website to prepare myself as best as possible for the exam. And back in the day, that's what you did. Very old school. There was nothing computerized about it. But I'm glad it's changed. I think it's improved. There was a question earlier about what the cost of the exam was, and it's around $200 per exam segment. So in total, the exam costs around $600. The Education Foundation does have a scholarship for Prometrics testing fees. Meg is going to have an application up on our website fairly soon. It is our website is naea-ef.org. And we're also going to have scholarship applications for CPREP review courses that people could take. And it's the CPREP review courses, it's for all three parts of the exam. So if you're interested in taking a CPREP review course, please apply for a scholarship on our website.
Catherine.
Don, what do you like best about your job?
Did Rosie say something?
Actually, I was just going to point out there's
Oh.
a couple of questions in the Q&A that I wanted to bring to our attention. And somebody had asked earlier if they could pick and choose what section of which test they took. I wanted to note there are 3 parts to one test. So you have to take all 3 parts: individuals, business, and representation, in order to become an enrolled agent.
But you don't have to take them in order. You can take part 3 first,
Right.
or you can take part 1. A lot of people do part 2 last, business, for whatever reason. That seems to be the exam people have the most trouble with. I actually did the best on that one, but
I think, well, because I know for me, since I prepared personal taxes, I'm a little more familiar with individual, the rules for an individual tax preparation. So for me, that's why the business tax preparation was a little more difficult.
well, and for me, it's a little bit different because I actually come from a business background, and I worked in a corporate environment for about 20 years before deciding to venture into tax and accounting. And so I was very familiar with the business when I went to take that part of the exam.
think if I remember correctly, the individual test is a lot more about memorizing the ideas, whereas the business one is conceptually a bit more challenging to understand. So that was why it took me a little bit longer to get prepared for the business one, is because I could memorize quite well, but like understanding a full rounded concept, that was challenging for me. And I did take the business one final as the final one too.
And the other thing is, you know, we have a great group of enrolled agents, as Kathy was saying earlier. If you're somebody that is a candidate for the exam and you're struggling with the business section, there are a lot of enrolled agents within NAEA. I don't believe that you have to be a member to go to the affiliates page. We have a lot of state affiliates. And I remember doing an IRS tax forum and hooking up some of the people that were actually working on doing the exams with people in the states in which they lived, and they were able to get assistance on the parts that they were having problems with. EAs are a very helpful group of people. So, you know, don't hesitate to reach out, and somebody will help you. Michelle has a question, and I think this is a Chris question. Is the test timed? Also, is the test only given at certain times of the year or any time?
The test is timed, but it was 4 hours. So I had plenty of time. And you do get to, you can take that 15-minute break. That doesn't count against you. But then also, if you need to take a break in the middle of either half of the test, the time keeps rolling, but they let you, obviously, if you have to go to the bathroom or something, you can leave, but the time does keep rolling. And I believe the test is happening year round. And you just, you know, choose, and you don't have to choose them all at once. I did, because the way I set it up with, I wanted to get it done before tax season. But I think you could just choose one and pass it, and then choose another one and pass it, and go from there and take your time with it.
There's another question from Maria. To apply for the scholarship applications for the prep review courses, do you have to be a member of NAEA? Absolutely not. We want everybody, whether you're a member or not. You can become an associate member of NAEA. That's your choice. But if you want to become an enrolled agent, the foundation wants to help you become an enrolled agent. So this is a question for Kathy and Don. How effective is word of mouth for your business?
Want to go first, Don?
Sure. Word of mouth is everything. So I remember before I even went to the IRS, or even as a kid, my dad would have me go to neighborhoods and trailer parks and put these flyers on people's doors and the laundromats. And when I left the IRS and took over, he's like, "Oh, you need to do this. That's just part of running a business." I said, "Oh, well, so how many clients did you pick up from that?" He goes, "Oh, a handful." I said, "How many from word of mouth?" "Pretty much everybody. But you've got to do this to run your business." I go, "I'm not going to be busy just for the sake of being busy. If I only get a handful, I'm just going to, you know, the reason why word of mouth works is if you know your stuff, you're a good communicator, and you enjoy people, they feel that in return." And they frankly, sadly, don't get that. There's plenty of clients to go around, but they just don't get that from other places. The good communication or a feeling of connection. So if you can connect with your client, and I would say I spend probably 80% of the appointment shooting the bull with them, just talking about travel and food and things that everybody likes to talk about. That's your connection right there. They don't want to go anywhere else. The taxes is a side note. If you know your stuff, you're going to be good at that anyway. They know that, but they come to you because you're unique.
I agree with Don. One thing that I would add is that, and it's exactly what he's saying, is I have always felt nobody enjoys getting their taxes done. I hate to even do my own taxes, right? So when that client's in front of you, make them feel welcome. Make that appointment enjoyable. How are the kids? How are Lee doing? How's Lee doing? How's your parents? Was that trip to Hawaii everything you had hoped for? Connect with them on a personal level, and then because they're not there to listen to you say on line 33 of your 1040, yada yada yada. They don't want to hear it. Just wave your wand, get them a good result, make them feel warm and welcome, and they're going to come back as a client. The other piece of that I wanted to add to what Dawn said is there are clients everywhere. I have picked up clients everywhere. Just, somebody, oh, what do you do? You start telling them what you do. Well, and this just happened to me at a fundraiser that I went to, which was an outdoor event. And a gentleman asked me what I did. And he said, the IRS says I owe him $180,000. Can you have a card? And so it's just remember that clients are everywhere. Tell them what you do. Tell them confidently what you do, and let them know that you know what you're doing.
Rosie, would you agree with that?
I can only assume, considering I work in a big company, we have a marketing department, there's commercials, there's radio commercials. My dad comments on how often he hears the jingle that we have, so I don't quite know, but I do know that reputation is very big and that reviews are very well received at Optima. We love hearing good reviews. We love seeing the ratings and reviews that we get online, on Yelp, on whatever platforms. And we really enjoy that because it means that other people who are researching will see these reviews and feel that they should be confident enough to at least contact us to see if we could help them. So I definitely agree that any sort of word of mouth, whether it be positive or negative, will have big reaches one way or another.
And one other piece that I'd like to say is when you run into somebody that says, I owe $180,000 in taxes, one of the things that I always make a point to say is, if you were accused of a crime, you would not walk into court without an attorney. Well, the good news is with my license, you don't even have to show up for the appointment. I will talk to the IRS and you can go ahead and take your boat or your yacht or your Jaguar out for the weekend. And then we'll talk about the result. So that's one thing that gives them relief. It makes them feel like they've finally passed this weight off to somebody else that's going to take care of it for them. So if you're not an EA, I can't emphasize enough becoming an EA. If you're considering becoming a CPA, ask yourself, am I going to focus in tax? If I'm going to focus in tax, why not become an EA?
This another question that is in the question box, which quite frankly, I'm not sure of the answer. It's asking how many times you can take the test if you happen to fail. I think you can just keep taking it until you pass. I don't think that there is a limit on how many times you can take a test. But I'm not certain of that answer. And if we find out differently, we'll get you a different answer. And Chris is no longer on the panel. I'm not sure where he went to, but the question is, what is the breakout on the test between theory questions and calculations? I know back when I took it, it was about 50-50, but on the current test, I'm really, quite frankly, I'm not sure. Does anybody know the answer to that?
When I took my test, it was in 2015. I would say it's more on concept and theory. When it comes to calculations, they do have a few peppered in there, but it's more to make sure you understand the theory and the practicality of that theory. So I used the calculator sparingly during my test, and then this was like 6-7 years ago, so I don't know if they've changed it since then.
This question is open, but what is the best way to get into representation?
I can say that their representation cases are everywhere. Even if you're in individual tax prep or business, just tax prep, and somebody comes in with that IRS notice, congratulations. If you're going to help them resolve that notice, you're now doing representation work.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Don. I was going to say, I was actually going to yield to you as far as how to get into representation work. I'll let Don or Rosie address that question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when people find out that I'm former IRS, I don't need to say anything else, but we took over a practice of a guy and opened up 2 filing cabinets, and it was filled with IRS notices that the clients had no idea were there. The IRS was about to do a preparer project on the guy, and he had put on the tax returns his own office as the address for the clients, so that all the notices were going there. He obviously knew what he was doing wrong. That's one way to get into it, is purchase a practice that has problems like that. But it's everywhere, and especially this year, where even if you're doing things right, you're going to get those notices. But really, it's a familiarity thing. It's giving a shot. If you call and you talk to the IRS just a couple of times, you're going to know how things work and get a feel for it. And not accepting no for an answer really is the key too. But like I said, there's an exception to every rule. It's knowing when it applies. And Rosie can attest to this. It's having the proper templates in place for responses to those notices, and how each one is, and what code or regulation you're citing. If you can do that, then, you know, when does the first time abatement apply, and those types of things, that once you've done it a couple of times, there's plenty.
Rosie, anything to add to that?
No, I think they covered it pretty well. When it comes to representation, it's just part of the job. When it comes to working at a company like Optima, if it's part of your role, it's just, that's what you do. It's not a question of, am I representing? It's like, okay, who's next? And then who's next? Your day goes by really quickly because you have so many different clients to work on. The information's ready for you. You just have to do an analysis of it, put the options forward to the client, and then have them make the decision on how they'd like to move forward. They're well versed in the fact that they're being represented, because they have to sign, you know, the 8821 first, and then the 2848 sometime, twice at least. So yeah, people, when they come to us, when it gets to that part of the resolution, they're prepared to have their resolution set up.
So the next question is do you take the test once and additional classes every year? Once you become an enrolled agent, you're governed by Circular 230. And under Circular 230, you're required to take 72 hours of education every 3 years, 24 hours a year, with 2 hours of ethics every year in order to renew your enrolled agent credential. I can't speak for the rest of the panel, and I'm hoping they'll share with you, because of all the tax law changes and so forth. Last year, I took probably around 80 hours of continuing education. This year, I'm well over 60 hours of continuing education, because that's what I need to do to keep current, to do taxes and resolution for my clients.
I would agree with that. I, in fact, since I became an enrolled agent in 2004, back when tax law changes were less frequent, I still always took more, because it's a continuing learning process. One of the things that keeps our jobs exciting and not mundane is that it's always changing. The field is always changing. And in order to stay on top of your game, you have to do your best to learn everything that you can in these changes.
Any other comments from the panel? We're at 5:57, so I'd like to just make a few comments, and Meg can probably jump in there and help me at any time. We do have tools for prospective enrolled agents. We have the scholarships from the Education Foundation, and we also have a scholarship for the Prometrics testing fees. We are in the process of developing scholarships or with that we can fund programs with universities and perhaps other programs as well. If you're not an enrolled agent already, you can become an associate member of NAEA if you so choose. If you become an associate member, You get part 1 of the Surgeon Review class as part of your associate membership, plus discounts on the second and third package. The review courses, NAEA has a partnership with Surgent. The foundation currently has review courses available for scholarships with Surgent, Gleim, and Tax Mama. And we would like to also bring Fast Forward Academy on board. And we'll be working to do that. So we will have scholarships for all of the providers available. Is there anything else I need to add to that, Meg?
I think you covered it, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay, well, I really appreciate everybody attending this tonight. I hope that you all found it helpful, and anybody on this panel would love to help you become enrolled agents. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll hook you up with somebody that can help you. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you all for your
everyone.
participation and sharing your great insight with everybody tonight. If anyone would like to connect with any of the panelists or want more information about the information or the scholarships and other things that we talked about, please feel free to email me at mkillian@naea.org and I can get you the information that you need. So thanks everybody and have a wonderful day.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.